Testosterone, TRT, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Today we're going to be reviewing Adam from Psyched Substance. He's a big YouTuber who's been taking testosterone every single day for the past 4 years. Now, ultimately, what I want to do in this video is share with you my thoughts and opinions on his protocol, his side effects, what he's been doing wrong, what he could do better, things like that. And just bear in mind that these potential side effects or the drawbacks are associated with TRT. Now, this is not necessarily through the alternative methods that I've been talking about on this channel, the natural testosterone optimization methods, but we'll get into Adam's review in a second. So if you do like this content, guys, please do like the video and hit subscribe to stay up to date with the latest and greatest health research. Let's get into it.
We're dialing it back to 4 years ago when I was following the advice from a friend and a fellow popular YouTuber. Well, he told me to get my testosterone levels checked, so I did. And after learning that my free and bioavailable testosterone was in the shitter, and of course being told all of the wonderful benefits of TRT from Derek, somebody who I looked up to, I decided to hop on the no balls bandwagon. That's right, I was going to nuke my testicles and hop on the Sazul. I was excited. I was nervous. I was stupid. I expected too much, and at the same time, it surpassed all of my expectations. Let me explain. Notice the word choice that I used. I called it enhancement. I did not call it therapy. Even though TRT stands for testosterone replacement therapy, it really is enhancement. I personally do not buy this BS that men can't recover their testosterone naturally. I think a lot of guys are just lazy, and if they put the work in, they would not need the TRT.
That is definitely true for a number of guys out there. They jump onto TRT. They're looking for a shortcut, right? They haven't explored all the possible ways to optimize naturally, and they just want to inject themselves and utilize testosterone every single day, and they're happy to become dependent upon it. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to optimize their diet. Some guys don't want to optimize their supplement protocols. And having said all that, there is a small percentage of the population that actually do need TRT, right? They might have primary hypogonadism where they've actually got damage. They've got a mechanical issue, things like that. So, yeah.
In my own personal example, at the time when I went on it, I was actually addicted to drugs that have the potential. I said potential. There's conflicting evidence that maybe it doesn't, but they had the potential to lower my testosterone.
There's many different drugs out there that, pharmaceutical drugs that are prescribed, such as opioids, things like that, statins. A lot of these drugs actually lower testosterone levels, and so this is what Adam's talking about in a sec.
Cover my testosterone, I just had to get off the drugs that I was addicted to. Hint, opioids. These are known universally to lower your testosterone levels.
Opioids, in particular, are devastating for not only testosterone, but also they can spike prolactin, they can affect sexual functioning and things like that.
So if you're taking any kind of opioid and then you get a hormone check, your levels are going to be lower because of the opioid. So you jump off the opioid, then you go back and get that test and you're like, oh my gosh, guess what? My testosterone was fine. I didn't need the TRT. So if I wanted my testosterone levels to naturally return, I just had to jump off said compounds, which I did not do, at least not at first. I'm off them now, but at first I didn't do it. I was too addicted because I'm an addict. Oh no, let's get the record straight. I went on TRT because I was mainly curious what having enhanced levels of testosterone was going to actually feel like.
A lot of guys actually jump onto TRT because they just want to feel the benefits of testosterone. They just want to experience what it's like to have high testosterone.
Was it going to help my confidence? Was it going to help me in the gym? Was it going to help me get more work done? Derek says testosterone makes effort feel good. Was it going to actually have that effect on me, or did I destroy my brain too much with drugs previously?
Dr. Andrew Huberman also mentions that testosterone makes effort feel good as well.
So we're just going to jump into some of the positive and negative effects that I experienced personally going on it. Keep in mind, I've been doing this now for 4 years, so I have a pretty adequate...
4 years is a pretty long time to analyze and assess the effects of TRT, so it's a pretty good N of 1 experiment.
Viewpoint as to what the effects were, how I used to be, how it's changed me, the positives, the negatives, all that stuff in between. So let's just start with some of the actual real world. It's just going to make your head spin. But what I'm here to do is tell an honest account of my experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, whether it makes me look like an asshole or whether it makes me look like I'm full of shit. I am going to tell an honest perspective of what this stuff actually did to me, and it had a very dramatic effect on my life. We're not going to sugarcoat that. It dramatically changed my personality, and not all for the better. Some things for the better, some things for the worse.
A lot of guys that optimize their testosterone do mention that they notice changes in their personality. Some guys notice more confidence, more assertiveness. They're less passive. Some guys also report that they feel more aggressive. Although in my particular case, when I managed to get my testosterone levels to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter naturally, for those wondering where to access my protocol, www.trtfree.com. That's my full protocol to optimize testosterone. When I did manage to get my testosterone that high, I felt confident, I felt assertive, I felt dominant, I felt amazing across the board.
If you're watching this and you're considering you're my age, getting your 40, you get your levels checked, they're low, it's not this magic pill that you think it is. There are benefits, but there for sure are some very real negatives that you have to weigh on your scales when you're balancing whether or not this is something that you really want to do. And I hope this video can help you make an educated decision based on my 4 years of experience now altering my hormones. So on that attractive note, what TRT does, or any androgenic compound, is it's going to cause more masculinity to appear on the surface of your body and face, meaning you're going to grow more body hair. Prior to TRT, I had no chest hair. Now look at this. Look, just check this shit out. Yeah, this was not there, but it didn't happen overnight. This grew approximately 2 to 3 years in. It was a very slow grow, but I went from 0 chest hair to actual chest hair.
For some guys, growing chest hair might actually be a benefit. So not necessarily a side effect, but might be a benefit.
I had a very, very patchy beard. And what do you think the andronization did to my face? Well, it created a more symmetrical beard.
So when you have high testosterone, your beard looks like this. It's very, very well defined, and it's very prominent.
Beard, which is something that I'm not, too displeased with. But again, it wasn't overnight. Within about 3 months, my beard had got thicker, but it actually took 2 to 3 years for it to fill into the point that you see now. And oddly, it's still getting thicker. I've got this floating mustachio, and the edges are slowly inching closer and closer towards creating a full goatee, which I don't like. I like my floating mustache. I don't want a fucking goatee. I like how I look. So fuck. It seems like the masculinization just continues and continues with no sign of stopping. I presently have very little, if not any, back hair, but I bet as I keep going on, I'm going to get some freaking back hair. It seems that my body wants to grow hair everywhere, except my head, which is cool. I'm cool. I'm down with being bald. That was the other thing. If you go into your teeth, there is a risk that it is going to accelerate male pattern baldness, meaning if you already are...
This is a well-known fact that if guys are susceptible to hair loss, then going onto TRT can exacerbate that hair loss, partially due to the fact that it does get converted into DHT and also estrogen as well. So both DHT and estrogen do contribute to hair loss. It's not just DHT. Estrogen can play a role as well.
If you already are genetically predisposed to losing your hair, meaning it's on the mother's father side, meaning your mother's father was bald, you are going to speed up the process. Now, lucky for me, I had already lost all of my hair follicles due to taking Accutane when I was younger, which already sped up my balding process. By 22, I basically looked like the beautiful specimen that you see before me now. So I really wasn't too worried about the hair loss part of it, but that is a very real effect for guys who are trying to hold on to their hair. I've been bald over here for nearly half my life, so I'm pretty cool with it at this point. It really doesn't bug me. Changes to the face. So my jaw, my jowls, these muscles over here, definitely became more prominent. If you look at before and afters of me, I look more masculine. You also retain more water. So you have like a sense of puffiness that envelops not just your face, but your entire body. My feet are a little fatter. Shoes don't fit the same. I can tell when I've accidentally dosed too high, because what happens is when I'm chewing food, I start biting my cheeks and then I get these horrible scabs. Expect to feel like you're just kind of expanded. Like, when you were a kid, you had those little sponge toys and you threw them in the water. And then after like a day or two, like the little dinosaur would become like this huge dinosaur because it was actually just this compressed sponge. It's almost like it does that to your entire body. I went from, needing small hats, and this is an XL. Like, that's how much my head has expanded. And it's bizarre because if you feel my head, it's not like it's squishy. It's not like I feel as though, there's a layer of water between my skin and my scalp. It feels hard as freaking rock, yet my head is bigger. So perhaps it had some actual changes to the bone density in my face. Now, these andronization effects.
Testosterone does increase bone mineral density. It does help with bone thickness and things like that. But a lot of those benefits actually come from the conversion from testosterone into estrogen. So that's a pretty interesting side effect. A number of guys have reported this when they've used TRT for many, many years. They've noticed actual physical structural changes. Maybe their shoe size has increased. They're carrying a little bit more water retention. They've noticed a bit more puffiness, facial changes, jaw structure changes. I mean, if you're doing the mouth taping, that's obviously going to help that as well.
Andronization effects, the changes to your face, are permanent. If I stop taking TRT, my face is not going to revert to my boyish, childlike looks from before. I am going to stay andronized. And now, this is something to really pay attention to, because if you're someone who is very pleased with their physical appearance, you love how you look, don't go on TRT, or don't.
Okay, first of all, low dose TRT is not going to result in some of those permanent changes, like what he's mentioning around the facial changes. If a guy's using a low dose of testosterone, there's a very low chance that he's going to be getting some of these permanent facial changes. He might notice a temporary increase in swelling, but not long lasting. It's not going to really elicit that long lasting effect.
A blast dose of testosterone to bodybuild, because what's going to happen is how you look is going to change inevitably. We see it all across the board with bodybuilders.
I mean, realistically, there's a number of guys out there that want to change the way that they look. Some guys want to become more masculine. They actually want to look more masculine. So is it a side effect? Is it a nasty effect? I don't know. It's up to the individual.
The face puffs up in relation to how much of the body puffs up. So if you're going to do this, just expect that you are going to look more masculine. Your chin is going to get more prominent. Your jawline is going to get more prominent. I forget the name of this shit, but whatever, this part of your face, you can tell when someone takes lots of gear because it starts to droop and sag and they get these really intense lines here. I'm really harping on this because I want to make it clear that it's not just that your body and your muscles get bigger. Your actual facial geometry changes. You look like a different person. It hits you on all levels, not just visually, but also auditorily. Your voice, it deepens. Now, a lot of the time when I used to record videos, I would purposely talk in a much deeper voice because I was very self-conscious of my high voice. Now I just talk normally. I kind of talk a little high-pitched. But if I were to speak in the way that I used to speak when I was filming videos...
So this deeper voice effect, I mean, this is something that I noticed about 2 years into my testosterone optimization journey. I actually noticed a significantly deeper voice when I would do some icing or cold therapy. Specifically, if I would ice my testes, then I'd notice a deeper voice about 1 hour after. Even after training legs, I used to notice a deeper voice 2 to 3 hours after training. And that's because you're getting a massive surge in testosterone and DHT. A few other supplements have made a difference for me as well in terms of deeper voice. Funnily enough, deer antler extract somehow had that effect. It's supposed to be androgenic. Cystanch also helped a little bit. Boron is another one as well. So a number of supplements that have actually had this effect have been useful, in particular for myself, because, about 4 or 5 years ago, particularly my voice was definitely a few octaves, like decibels higher in terms of deepness. So this is a benefit. A number of guys want to have a deeper voice, so I wouldn't say this is a side effect.
To speak when I was filming videos, this is what I would sound like. This is dramatically different than what I used to sound like. I would always try to speak, from the diaphragm, speak deep, try to get that really, commanding voice out when I'm filming these. Now I just don't care because my voice is just deeper overall. But if this is quite actually a direct comparison to how I used to sound when I would make videos. This is the voice, at least this is how I would try to talk, speaking a little lower, because I really did just kind of look like a man baby, and my voice matched. It was kind of like I just never went through puberty prior to TRT. My voice was high, my beard never filled in, I looked young. I mean, I was getting ID'd when I would go buy alcohol in my mid-30s. For real. I had gotten ID'd in my mid-30s, which is unheard of. Now, of course, I don't get ID'd at all, and I'm going to stop speaking so deeply because I feel like I'm trying to put on a voice, but this is quite actually what my voice is when I just try to talk normally. So when I'm making these videos, I talk a little bit higher. Like I feel like my voice is coming out of the back of my throat. It's a little bit of a higher voice. It's how I prefer to sound. I don't really like to speak as deep like this, but this is how I used to talk in videos. And
if any guys listening to this video and they actually want to know how to get a deeper voice, there is some humming practices you can do to actually help with vocal training and vocal cords. And then obviously, there's a few supplements that I mentioned before can actually help with a deeper voice, but I might actually make a dedicated video on this subject in the next few weeks.
Yeah, there needs to be a very clear showing that testosterone dramatically deepens your voice. The next thing is something you're probably not gonna, let's get my normal voice back. The next thing is something that you're probably not going to expect me to say. And it was very bizarre to me, but it's your driving habits. My actual driving habits when I'm in my vehicle have changed. Now, when I was a teenager, I had that syndrome where I always wanted to be first. I wanted to race everybody. I had to get in front of everybody. I saw driving as if we were in a constant, never-ending Gran Turismo racetrack. And as I aged, it was really refreshing because I stopped giving a flying, flippin' flapjack. I don't mind people passing me. I was slow. I went the speed limit. No rush. I was just chill. But at the same time, I did not enjoy driving. I really despised it. But I was a chill driver. One of the very first things that I noticed when going on TRT was I was at a stoplight, and it was one of those instances where the right lane is quickly, it quickly merges into one lane as soon as you cross the road. So it's like, there's the intersection, you cross the intersection, and you got 50 meters to get over. And I remember, normally in that instance, I would just, if I was on the right and I had to get over, I would slow down and I would always go behind the driver on the left, giving them, the right of way because they were in the correct lane. I wasn't going to, be a dick and pass them. And I remember sitting there at that stoplight and going I gotta fucking pass this bitch. And I was driving a 6-speed car at the time, and I revved the shit out of that baby, and I passed the motherfucker, and then I just kept booking it up until I was 30 kilometers above the speed limit. And I remember thinking, what the flying fact? Why do I all of a sudden want to drive so freaking fast?
Okay, this is due to the fact that testosterone makes men more competitive. This is without a doubt a benefit. In my opinion, I think this is actually a really nice effect of testosterone. It makes men more competitive, more wanting to conquer, more like inclined to want to win in things like that. So I would definitely say this is a benefit. Personally, I actually noticed this myself in the gym. I just got off the leg press machine, and I remember I had to fill up my drink bottle. And there was another guy walking towards the drinking tap, and there's obviously like only one drinking tap. And when I went over to the drinking tap, like obviously it's a battle of who could get there first. And I remember just walking super fast to like get to the drinking tap first. Not that I was really thirsty, it's just more the fact that I wanted to beat him to the tap. Also, back when I was in high school, I used to be really competitive with school athletics, things like that. I used to play soccer as well, things like that. So yeah, the competitive nature of testosterone is an advantage. A number of guys out there today they're just very passive. They're not very excited, enthusiastic, dominant, productive. That's where testosterone can really shine.
There was a direct correlation to having higher testosterone levels and wanting to pilot your vehicle at max speeds. Following that, I started getting really into playing Gran Turismo with my son, and my son said, "Dad, can we upgrade our car like the car in Gran Turismo?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's find out if we can," because I was having fun driving fast. So I took my car to a tuner shop, and I brought it from 200 wheel horsepower to 520 wheel horsepower when running ethanol. Yeah, I tuned the fucking shit out of that. And it's a front wheel drive car. That's the funny thing. The biggest problem is traction. It's like as long as I got a rolling start, I'm good. I'm gonna beat a Corvette. Like I'm gonna fly past those mother bitches because I got the lightness. It's a Golf. I got the lightness. But from a dead stop, I got no traction, baby. Putting that much power in a front wheel drive car was ridiculous. But once I started tuning, I was like, we just got to keep pushing the envelope. I made that GTI as fast as possible, bar doing any real internal changes. It's got stock internals.
You know what? I just thought about this. With testosterone, I actually wonder whether or not it makes you want to max out in every area of your life. So for example, maxing out, getting the best property, getting the best car, getting the best shoes, getting the best clothes, getting the best wife, getting the best, very competitive, wanting to just be the best in every area. I sort of wonder whether or not testosterone has that effect as well.
And she's got 520 horsepower with 530 foot-pounds of torque. Anyway, the reason why I keep harping on this is because I thought that I had outgrown these habits. I thought that was just the natural progression of becoming an adult. Meanwhile, the truth was, all that had happened was my hormone levels had changed, so I started caring about different things. We are chemical creatures, and I find this eternally fascinating. We like to think of ourselves as these intellectual beings with all this free will, and we make our own choices, and we decide what we're interested in. But we really don't. We really don't have much say in a lot of this stuff. A lot of what we're drawn to has to do with our chemical composition, which changes as we age.
Guys, I have been saying this for a number of years. This is why I preach the concept of cosmetic neurology, which is basically the way that you show up to the world is a core reason or a core, byproduct of your neurotransmitters, your neurochemistry, your hormones. Like these are what drive and determine behavior, in my opinion. I think that there's guys out there that have high dopamine, high testosterone. They are wanting to crush life, dominate, and do really well. Whereas if you look at guys that are low testosterone, that are high in serotonin, they oftentimes feel submissive, they feel passive, they feel deflated, not motivated, things like that. So biochemistry rules it all, in my opinion.
Finally, let's talk about what most people go on TRT for, the changes in their muscle mass and their physical appearance, as in their body, not the face. Yes, my body and muscle mass has gotten better, but it has been very slow and not as dramatic as one might think. I have now been on TRT for nearly 4 years, and the caveat here is I have not consistently worked out. Sometimes I'll work out really intensely for 2 weeks, like I'll do 3 times a week, and then the following two weeks to a month, I'll do once or twice a week. So my working out has not been consistent. I imagine if it was, I would be presenting here with a much bigger, larger physique. In fact, I was much bigger just after a year on it because I was really dedicated to the diet and the training, and I've kind of fallen off because there's just, there's a lot going on in my life. I do want to get back on it, and I do want to capitalize on the fact that I'm on this enhancement and, make myself appear like I'm so much stronger, but I don't really care anymore. And since I'm short, I'm about 5'5", maybe 5'6" if you really stretch me out one day.
Guys, that is very, very short, by the way. 5'5", 5'6". That's why he would be getting that swelling effect as well.
I look bigger than I am, and most people don't even believe that I am on TRT. The last blood work I got said that my free testosterone was 400 nanograms per deciliter. For reference, the average male who's just natural, not injecting anything, is going to be between 300 to 1,000.
All right, so he's wrong here. He's made a mistake. So he said his free testosterone was about 400 nanograms per deciliter. He said the average for free testosterone is, I think he said 300 to 1,000. He meant total testosterone, not free testosterone.
And even with injecting, I'll be at 400. So by no means am I taking massive doses, but nobody believes me, which I find eternally...
I think he made a mistake, guys.
Cool, because like if you look at pictures of me, when I was younger, and I would wager that I never had high testosterone, just from the mere fact that, and this is probably flawed logic, but this is what I believe, my facial hair was always sparse, and it took being on TRT to get it thick. So like, if that's an indicator of having low testosterone, if you look at me as a kid, there was a time when I was really into working out, and I looked big. I would argue in some areas, some muscle groups were bigger than I am now on TRT, and in some lifts, I was just the same strength as I am now when I was a freaking 22-year-old kid, which is mind-boggling. So like, when it comes to strength gains, a lot of people want to talk about like the actual strength gains, like fuck the physical appearance, does it make you actually stronger? It has helped me gain strength, but it really hasn't been dramatic. I think in order to have a dramatic increase in my strength, I would have to up the dose. Like I've been consecutively working out and, missing workouts, but it has been consecutive for the past 4 years, and my lifts have slowly...
Okay, here's an example. If you're going from around 300 nanograms per deciliter, and then you go on TRT and you boost it up to around 1,000 nanograms per deciliter, total testosterone, you are going to notice an improvement in strength. You are going to notice an improvement in recovery, muscle adaptations, things like that. But if you're going from, let's say, 700 and you're boosting it up to like 1,000, you're not going to notice a whole heap of beneficial effects in terms of muscle strength.
To summarize, one of the biggest positives that I haven't touched on yet.
This is a big positive, by the way. A lot of guys out there they suffer from social anxiety. They're not confident in social settings, and it actually really severely affects them in a negative way.
Is the increase in confidence. When it comes to just being in social scenarios, say having to talk to a stranger, it's almost like I have no social anxiety. And keep in mind, I'm a person who used to have a ton of social anxiety, but I put in a lot of work when I was younger, going out to bars and going to strangers and just trying to like get out of my shell. I put in the work as in I approached thousands of people to try to get over this inherent fear that was instilled upon me that I just didn't feel worthy of, existing. I felt like I had to shrink around people. I hated being in social settings. It scared the shit out of me. I would get so nervous I'd start shaking. So when I was younger, I really put in the work to go out and talk to people. But even that being said, even as an adult, when you're not constantly going out and talking to strangers, it's like a muscle. You lose that ability.
Okay, so a good example of this would have been during lockdown, during COVID. In particular, even myself, not being around friends and not being out in social environments because we're locked down, that actually worsened my social anxiety. And then obviously I came across like taurine and a few other adaptogens, catwaba, and that basically annihilated that social anxiety for me. So you can get it through obviously hormone optimization. You can also achieve the reduction in anxiety through supplements as well.
And it gets scary again. But I can say is being on TRT has increased my confidence to the degree where I just have virtually zero social anxiety. I already was at a point where I really didn't care what people think. Just to put this in perspective, it's not like I really care what people think, and now I was like, oh my God, I don't at all. It wasn't like, it wasn't that dramatic. It's more like...
I would actually love to hear from you guys. Have you noticed a reduction in social anxiety and you seem to care less about what people think of you after optimizing testosterone levels? Leave a comment down below, guys. I'd be curious to hear what you think.
I already didn't really care what people think. And now in conjunction with being on, TRT and having more confidence, I really don't give a shit. It feels good. Like it really does feel good.
Okay, I do care about what people think, specifically on this topic and this subject matter. What do you guys think of this particular video? Do you think that TRT is all it's cracked up to be? Would you prefer to optimize naturally? Leave a comment down below. I thought this video was pretty interesting. Hearing Adam after being on TRT for over, I think he said every day for 4 years. So leave a comment down below, guys. Make sure to like this video and hit subscribe to stay up to date with the latest and greatest health research.